Hey guys, what is up? It's Zero here, and today we're going to be going over the Blade set. This set is good throughout the entire game, from early game all the way up into the end game. The reason that this is a good set is because it's the crit rate set. It's a two-piece set, and for each two-piece, you get an additional 12% to your crit rate. There are, off the top of my head, two monsters that benefit from the crit rate because their abilities require a very high crit, even a 100% crit, for their abilities to be successful. Early game, you will be farming up a few of these sets to put on your early and in your beginning and early game monsters to get a little bit of that additional crit rate to be able to dish out a bit more damage. I am going to go over the two monsters that I know of off the top of my head that benefit the most from crit rate. The first one is actually a pretty good early game healer if you can get him. Uh, he is a secret dungeon, and he's only obtainable when the light secret dungeon, or when the light dungeon is up, which is today, Sundays, unless there's an event going on where they're open for the whole weekend. And they would be open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that is going to be Amen, the light warbear. Not warbear, bearman, light bearman. Um, if you can't get the 100% crit or close to it without using all blade runes, you can try and get him to that with all blade runes, because that would be an additional 36% crit that you don't necessarily have to account for. Early game, if you are able to get him, most would recommend HP, crit rate, HP for his 246. If you can do that with all blade runes, go right on ahead. If you can do it with a 4 blade and 2 energy, I would recommend doing that, because you can also get a little bit into his HP to make him a little bit sustainable. The reason you want to shoot for a 100% crit rate for him is because of his passive. And that's why I also want a high HP with him. Every time he crits, he heals the entire team by 20% of his max HP. So you want a really high HP and a really high crit rate on him. He's a great early, even intro mid-game healer to get a hold of if you have not been able to gotten anybody else from the healing list. If you've not been able to get into a guild and get Fran, or if you've not been able to get a Inugami secret dungeon, light Inugami secret dungeon, he would be another good alternate. Very, very high HP, high defense if you can get it, so that he's not one shot. And then a very high crit rate. I have not used mine since I was able to get Fran and Bella, which is the light Inugami. Since I've gotten these two and I've been working on them and I've got them runed up and I'm using them, he's just kind of 5-starring him is good enough. You can 6-star him, but he's someone who would really benefit from the crit rate Blade Rune set. Most all of your damage dealers will have. Oh, you're not ruined. Most of your damage dealers will run at least a 1-set blade to get additional crit rate. Just about all of mine run blade. All of your damage dealers run blade. I was able to hit the 100% crit rate on my Vertiheel, who is the next monster that replies heavily on this set. If you have a really good blade set, all 6 runes, you could definitely all 6 blade him. Otherwise, early game, you would definitely want a swift blade and try and get to that 100%. Um, some people say you can violent rage him or violent blade him, but if you can get a decent speed on him, you don't want him to be the fastest because his ability, his passive is every time he crits, allies' attack bars increase by 20%. So he's definitely an attack bar manipulator. He's now a fusible monster, so you don't have to worry about pulling him. He's a natural 4-star, but he is fusible. I believe with 2 and 3-star monsters, you can get those and get him built and fuse him. You can even fuse his skill ups. You don't have to use Devilmon on him, so you can just keep making him through fusion and feed them to himself to skill up his skills. Mine is not even all the way skilled up yet. So him and Amon the Light Bearman, those ones are the 2 monsters that stick out that really benefit off of the crit, just because they both really need to be at 100% crit rate. I would say 95 or better, but you really don't want to leave that to chance. But the Crit Rune set, very good set. It goes into end game. It's a set you definitely want to try and get a few of decent runes. You farm it out of stage 3, and it's probably one of the more used sets as far as 2-piece sets goes. It's one of the most used. Trying to think who else would benefit off of doing a full crit set, but those 2 are the only 2 that really come to mind as far as that goes. But almost all of your damage dealing monsters will use at least 1 set of blade. The next video I'm going to put together is I'm going to get a bunch of 2 and 3-star monsters that, should you pull these monsters, is definitely worth to build them, and almost all of them will definitely be worth going to 6-star. Some of them you might 6-star later than others, but all of them are worth 6-starring at some point. Whether they're first or in the middle does not matter. There are some videos out there that do some 3-star teams, 2-star teams, that you can progress through the entire game with. The main one that comes to mind would be Jubagel. He's got some that he put out, I want to say, about a year or so ago, on doing a all 3-star dungeon team, and I would definitely recommend checking that out for him. It is an older video, but it does still work. But I'm going to put together a list of some monsters that, if you pull these monsters, you definitely want to keep them. You can build them, especially up to at least 5-star. Some of them you can definitely 6-star, but that's what I'll go over in the next video.